The engine sputtered like a dying heartbeat, then gave out with a final, mocking cough, leaving me stranded on a black ribbon of road that twisted through the olive groves of Andalusia like a vein in the earth's parched skin. Rain hammered the windshield in fat, relentless drops, blurring the dashboard lights into smears of orange and red, and I gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles ached, whispering curses to the dashboard saints I'd never believed in. Headlights sliced through the storm behind me, slow, deliberate, and my pulse jackhammered as the cruiser pulled up, its siren silent but its presence a thunderclap in the midnight void. "Hop in," she said, her voice cutting through the downpour like a lifeline tossed from the cliffs, steady and unyielding, with that faint lilt of someone who'd grown up chasing shadows in these hills. She was silhouetted against the cruiser's open door, rain slicking her dark hair, uniform clinging just enough to hint at the strength beneath, early 30s, maybe, with eyes that caught the flash of her flashlight like emeralds in coal. I hesitated, my duffel bag heavy in the passenger seat, packed with the ghosts of a life I'd fled across an ocean, but her gaze held no judgment, only the quiet command of someone who'd seen too many nights like this. "It's not safe out here alone. Name's Nova Reyes. Andalusian Highway Patrol." Olive Harper, that's me, 28 and unraveling like cheap yarn, didn't move at first. I'd bolted from Seattle 3 weeks ago, chasing the myth of reinvention in Spain's sun-baked west, where the air smelled of salt and forgotten revolutions. My ex, Jordan, had shattered me with a betrayal so clean it felt surgical, texts I'd found on her phone, promises whispered to someone else while I poured my soul into our shared gallery space, our dreams of a life stitched from canvas and coffee. I'd sold everything, boarded a flight to Malaga with a one-way ticket and a heart bandage of denial, telling myself the road would heal what words never could. But here I was, gassed out on the N340, the Mediterranean a black murmur below the cliffs, and this cop, Nova, stood like fate's reluctant emissary. I grabbed my bag, slung it over my shoulder, and slid into the cruiser's passenger seat, the vinyl cold against my soaked jeans. The door clicked shut with a finality that echoed in my chest. "Olive," I muttered, wiping rain from my face. "Just Olive. Thanks. I didn't think anyone patrolled this stretch after dark." Nova eased the car forward, wipers slashing rhythmically, her hands sure on the wheel. Up close, she was all sharp angles and quiet intensity, olive skin glowing under the dash lights, a faint scar tracing her jaw like a secret map. "Tourist?" she asked, not glancing over, but there was a warmth in her tone, like she'd sized me up and decided I wasn't trouble, just lost. "Expat, maybe. Trying to figure that out." The heater blasted warm air, thawing the chill in my bones, and for the first time in hours, I breathed without the weight of the world pressing down. We drove in silence for a mile, the radio crackling with static-laced Spanish dispatches, until she broke it. "Ron's Diner up ahead. Open 24/7, serves the best tortilla española this side of Cadiz. You look like you could use coffee. My treat, if you tell me why a Seattle girl like you's running from the rain instead of toward it." I laughed, a brittle sound that surprised us both. "How'd she know?" The Space Needle keychain dangling from my mirror, maybe, or the faint Pacific Northwest pallor under my tan. "Running from a lot more than rain," I admitted, the words slipping out like they'd been waiting. By the time we pulled into the diner's gravel lot, gravel crunching under tires, I'd spilled half the story, the gallery betrayal, the flight, the reckless drive west from Malaga toward who knows where. Nova listened without interrupting, her green eyes fixed on the road, but I caught the flicker of something in her profile, recognition, maybe, or the shadow of her own unraveling. The diner was a neon oasis, formica counters scarred from 1,000 regrets, the air thick with frying oil and the low hum of a jukebox crooning old flamenco tunes. We slid into a booth by the window, rain sheeting the glass like tears held back too long. Nova ordered for us, black coffee for her, latte for me, and plates of migas that arrived steaming, golden crumbs flecked with chorizo. "Spain's got a way of appending you," she said, stirring sugar into her cup with deliberate circles. "Came here as a kid, chasing my abuela's stories of gypsy queens and endless summers. Stayed because Well, sometimes the upside down is where you find your feet. I traced the rim of my mug, studying her. Born in LA to Mexican-American parents, she'd traded Hollywood dreams for the badge after her brother's overdose, too many pills in a system that chewed up dreamers. Patrol keeps me moving, she said, shrugging like it was nothing. No roots to rot. But there was a hitch in her voice, a crack like dry earth, and I wondered what she'd buried under that uniform. We talked until the storm broke, hours bleeding into dawn's first blush, words weaving a fragile bridge over the chasm of strangers. When she dropped me at a roadside motel, its sign flickering vacancy like a hesitant promise, she handed me her card. If you need a guide to this mad country, call. Andalusia doesn't forgive the lone wolves. Her fingers brushed mine, electric and fleeting, and as her taillights faded, I clutched that card like a talisman, heart pounding with the reckless hope that maybe, just maybe, this midnight detour was the start of something upright again. The motel room smelled of salt air and stale dreams, its walls papered in faded bullfight posters, a single bed sagging under the weight of transients like me. I collapsed onto it, Nova's card pinned to the corkboard above the sink, her number scrawled in neat block letters, Officer and Reyes. Sleep came in fits, haunted by Jordan's laugh echoing through gallery halls, the sting of lies that had tasted like love. By noon, I'd rented a beat-up Fiat from the village mechanic, gas tank full, map unfolded like a dare, and set off again, westward toward the wilder coasts, where the Atlantic met the land in jealous crashes. But Nova lingered in my rearview, a pull like gravity. 2 days later, as I sketched the crumbling whitewash of Ronda's Puente Nuevo, its gorge a yawning scar, I dialed her number on a whim. Fancy a detour, she answered on the second ring, voice laced with amusement. I'm off shift. Meet me at the Parador. Sunset's worth the climb. She was waiting on the terrace, civilian clothes transforming her, faded Levi's hugging her hips, a linen shirt unbuttoned at the collar, revealing the curve of her collarbone and a silver chain with a tiny saint medallion. 32, she'd confessed over texts, born under LA's smog, hardened by Spain's Sierras. We wandered the town's labyrinthine streets as dusk painted the sky in bruised purples, her hand brushing mine on a narrow cobbled path, neither pulling away. Dinner was at a hole-in-the-wall taberna, gazpacho sharp as regret, jamon sliced paper thin, and wine that loosened tongues and tightened chests. You're not what I expected from a cop, I said, emboldened by the Rioja, our knees touching under the table. All fire and philosophy. Nova's laugh was low, throaty, like thunder rolling in from the straits. And you're not what I expected from a stranded artist, all quiet storms and stolen glances. Her eyes held mine, green depths swirling with unspoken histories, and in that moment, under the flicker of candlelight, the world narrowed to the space between us. We kissed on the bridge at midnight, the wind whipping our hair, her lips soft and insistent, tasting of salt and surrender. It was tentative at first, then fierce, a collision of two lives derailed, finding traction in the other's orbit. But Spain, that beautiful betrayer, had other plans. The next week blurred into a montage of stolen days, picnics in almond orchards where we'd lie on blankets, her head on my lap as I read poetry, Lorca's blood-soaked verses mirroring the pulse in her veins. She traced my tattoos, a cascade of olive branches inked across my ribs, symbol of peace I'd chased from Seattle, and murmur stories of her own fractures, the fiancé who'd left her for a safer life back stateside, the badge she donned like armor after her brother's funeral, the nights patrolling empty roads to outrun the silence. You're healing me, I whispered one evening, as we drove the Corniche toward Tarifa, the African coast a hazy tease on the horizon. Nova's hand on my thigh, steady as her cruiser, and I believed it, believed in this upside-down grace, in the way her laughter filled the hollows Jordan had carved. Yet shadows crept in with the equinox winds. My phone buzzed one crisp October morning in a Cuddy's cafe, Jordan's name flashing like a flare. Found you, the text read. We need to talk. I'm flying in. Panic clawed my throat, I'd blocked her months ago, but Spain's small expat circles whispered secrets faster than the Sirocco. Nova, sensing the shift, squeezed my hand across the table. Old ghosts? She asked, voice even, but her eyes sharpened like a blade drawn. I nodded, spilling the rest, the gaslighting, the affair with our mutual friend, the way Jordan had convinced me my art was worthless without her curation. "She'll twist it," I said, voice cracking. "Make me doubt this." "Us." Nova pulled me close, her embrace a fortress. "Then we face her together. You're not running anymore, Olive. Not from her. Not from this." But betrayal, that insidious tide, doesn't announce itself with fanfare. It arrives in the quiet hours, when trust frays like old rope. We spent the next days fortifying our fragile world, as if love could be bricked against intrusion. Nova introduced me to her patrol partner, Mateo, a grizzled veteran with a mustache like a broom and eyes that missed nothing, who ribbed her mercilessly about the American who stole your heart faster than a joyride. We hiked the trails of Los Alcornicales, cork oaks whispering ancient conspiracies, her stories unfolding like wildflowers, the abuela who'd smuggled olive oil across borders during Franco's grip, the father who'd returned to LA a ghost after the divorce, leaving Nova to forge her path in Spain's unyielding embrace. "You're my anchor," I told her one night, tangled in the sheets of her tiny apartment in Algeciras, a space cluttered with dog-eared Lorca volumes, patrol maps pinned to walls like battle plans, and a guitar gathering dust in the corner. Moonlight slanted through shutters, silvering her skin as she traced lazy circles on my back. "Before you, I was just drifting." Nova propped on an elbow, her dark hair a cascade over one shoulder, green eyes solemn. "And you? You're the light I didn't know I was chasing, me lose. But anchors drag sometimes. Promise me, if it gets heavy, we talk. No secrets." I promised, sealing it with a kiss that tasted of forever. Yet Jordan's shadow lengthened. She emailed from Malaga Airport, landing tomorrow. Café de la Luna, noon. "Don't make me hunt you down." I showed Nova, expecting solidarity, but her jaw tightened, fingers drumming the table like Morse code for unease. "She's poison," Nova said finally, voice low. "But facing her. That's power. I'll drive you." "Wait outside." The café overlooked the Alcazaba's honeyed walls, tourists milling like colorful ants. Jordan arrived in linen whites, blonde hair gleaming, that practiced smile masking the predator beneath, 30, all sharp cheekbones and sharper words. "Olive," she purred, air kissing my cheeks. "You look sun-kissed. Spain suits the runaway aesthetic." We ordered espressos, the steam curling like accusations. She leaned in, voice honeyed venom. "I came to apologize. It was a mistake, that fling. You were my muse, my everything. Come home. The gallery's half empty without you." Her words slithered, stirring old doubts, the late nights I'd spent doubting my lines, her feedback that chipped away like chisel to stone. "It's over, Jordan. I found clarity here." She laughed, a tinkling bell laced with ice. "Clarity. With some local fling." I heard. "The cop. Darling, you're slumming it. She'll burn out fast, badges do that. Remember Elena? Your little phase in college. Ended in tears." The barb landed, twisting in the wound of my past flings, the ones I'd buried under Jordan's stability. I stood, chair scraping. "Don't. You don't know her. Us." Outside, Nova leaned against the cruiser, arms crossed, but her eyes scanned me like a crime scene. "You okay?" she asked, pulling me into a hug that smelled of leather and sea salt. "Told her off," I murmured, but the doubt lingered, a splinter under skin. That night, as we made love by candlelight, slow, reverent, her hands mapping my body like sacred text, I pushed it down, losing myself in the rhythm of her breath, the way she whispered my name like a prayer. But fissures widen unseen. A week later, Nova's shift stretched longer, her phone buzzing with calls she silenced mid-conversation. "Department drama," she'd say, kissing my forehead. "Nothing." I believed her, until the night I borrowed her cruiser keys. Hers were in my bag after a beach day, and found the glove box stash, a crumpled letter from her ex, Sophia, dated 6 months back. I can't do this anymore, Nova. The job takes you away, leaves me alone with your ghosts. Don't follow. Tucked beside it, a photo, them at a Madrid Pride March, arms linked, Sophia's smile radiant. Jealousy flared, irrational and hot. Why hide it? Was I just the rebound, the distraction from a love she'd lost? I confronted her at dawn, the letter thrust like evidence. Why the secrets? Am I filling a Sophia-shaped hole? Nova's face crumpled, then hardened. It's not, Dios, Olive. I didn't tell you because it's dead. She left because I chose the badge over us, over everything. You're not her. You're more. More what? A midnight rescue. Prove it. The words escaped, barbed and desperate. She recoiled as if slapped. I can't prove what you won't trust. Maybe you need space, to sort your own ghosts. The silence that followed was a chasm. I stormed out, driving the Fiat into the dawn, tears blurring the road to nowhere. Betrayal, I realized, wasn't just Jordan's lies, it was this, the fear that clawed from within, turning love to suspicion. Days blurred into a haze of solo sketches in Tarifa's windswept dunes, the Atlantic roaring recriminations. Nova's texts came sporadic, miss you. Talk. I ignored them, nursing wounds self-inflicted. Then Jordan struck again, this time with flowers at my motel, a bouquet of hothouse roses, note attached, second chances, Olive. I'm staying in town. Desperation whispered her name, a siren's call to the familiar abyss. I met her at a beachside bar, the sunset bleeding red into the waves. One drink, I said. Closure. She poured charm like sangria, reminiscing our Seattle nights, gallery openings, whispered futures. She's temporary, Jordan murmured, hand on my arm. Spain's a phase. Come back with me. We can fix it. The touch repulsed me, but the loneliness ached. As we walked the Strand, her arm linked in mine, headlights swept the path, Nova's cruiser, idling at the lot's edge. She stepped out, uniform crisp, face a mask of stone. Olive, she called, voice even. Everything all right? Jordan's grip tightened. Officer. Just catching up with an old friend. Nova's eyes met mine, green fire banked but burning. Looks like more than that. The air crackled, unspoken accusations hanging like storm clouds. Go, I whispered to Nova, shame flooding me. This isn't. But she turned, shoulders squared, and drove into the night without a word. Jordan's laugh followed me home, a hollow victory. The fallout was seismic. Nova went radio silent, her apartment dark when I knocked days later, rain lashing the door like judgment. Mateo answered, face grim. She's on leave, chica. Rough case, smugglers on the straight. Says to give you space. Smugglers. My stomach dropped. I'd been so wrapped in my drama, I'd missed hers, the job's underbelly, the dangers she patrolled alone. He sighed, handing me a spare key. Inside. But don't push. She's carrying enough. The apartment was a tomb, coffee cold on the counter, guitar untouched. On the fridge, pinned with a magnet from Rhonda, a sketch I'd drawn of us on the bridge, her profile etched in pencil strokes. Tears came then, hot and unbidden, as I curled on her couch, the scent of her, citrus and gun oil, wrapping around me like regret. I waited until midnight, the storm outside mirroring the one within. When she slipped in, uniform rumpled, eyes shadowed, I rose. Nova. Please. She froze, key dangling. What are you doing here? Fighting for us. I screwed up, let Jordan's poison in. But you're not a rebound. You're the horizon I didn't know to chase. Words tumbled, raw and pleading. Tell me about Sophia. The job. Everything. No more ghosts. She sank onto the couch, head in hands. Sophia wanted normalcy, kids, suburbs. I couldn't give that. The badge. It's my penance for Tomas, my brother. Failed him once, can't fail again. Her voice broke. With you. I saw a future. But seeing you with her. It gutted me. Thought maybe I was the fool, chasing what breaks. We talked until dawn, confessions spilling like the rain, her fears of abandonment, my terror of unworthiness. By sunrise, her hand found mine, tentative bridge rebuilt. We try, she whispered. Slow. Honest. But Spain's dramas don't pause for mending hearts. The call came 2 days later, Nova's radio crackling during our breakfast of pan con tomate. Reyes, smuggler boat aground near Bologna. Back up en route. Suspects armed. Her face paled. I gotta go. I'm coming, I insisted, grabbing my jacket. Not letting you face it alone. The drive to the cove was a blur, cliffs looming like sentinels, the sea churning slate gray. We crested the dune to chaos, a battered fishing trawler beached, waves gnashing its hull, flashlights bobbing as Mateo's team cordoned the site. Nova barked orders, her voice steel, but I saw the tremor in her grip on the radio. Stay back, she urged, strapping on her vest. But as shadows detached from the wreck, 3 men, ragged and desperate, one clutching a flare gun, I surged forward, heart in throat. A shout split the air, alto. One lunged, flare arcing wild, igniting dry scrub in a whoosh of flame. Nova tackled him, rolling in sand, her shout lost in the roar. I froze, then moved, grabbing a loose branch, swinging at the second who veered toward her. Chaos reigned, Mateo's shot cracked the air, the third surrendering with hands high, flames licking the dunes. When it ended, Nova rose, singed but whole, pulling me into a fierce embrace amid the acrid smoke. You crazy fool, she gasped, lips brushing my temple. My hero. The fire crew doused the blaze, arrests made under sodium lights. Back in her apartment, bandaged and buzzing with adrenaline, we collapsed together, the night's terror forging something unbreakable. No more hiding, she vowed, fingers laced in mine. You're in this with me, all of it. Winter crept in on Sirocco winds, gilding the groves in frost-kissed silver. Our lives intertwined like vines. I rented a studio in Algeciras, canvases blooming with Andalusian fire, cliffs and lovers etched in ochre and indigo. Nova taught me to shoot at the range, her hands guiding mine, laughter echoing off targets. We hosted potlucks with Mateo and his wife, Carmen, plates heaped with paella and stories swapped like currency. Jordan faded to a postcard, wishing you well, tossed unopened. But peace, that elusive bird, fluttered just out of reach. Nova's ex, Sophia, resurfaced in spring, a letter forwarded from LA, heard you're happy. Good for you. But if it crumbles, you know where to find me. Nova burned it in the sink, flames dancing in her eyes, but the ash lingered in our silences. The real fracture came with the promotion. Nova offered a transfer to Seville's major crimes unit, higher stakes, longer hours, a step toward the captaincy she'd dreamed since Tomas. It's a chance, she said over dinner at our favorite taberna, the air thick with garlic and garlic. To make a dent in the system that took him. My fork paused mid-air. And us? Seville's 3 hours away. Weekends. Texts in the dead of night. Her face shadowed. We'd make it work. Commuter love, it's American as apple pie, right? But her joke fell flat, the fear unspoken, the job's maw widening. I nodded, throat tight. Proud of you. Go. She left in June, the apartment echoing with her absence, my sketches turning melancholic, empty bridges, solitary figures on cliffs. Calls became voicemails, visits squeezed between stakeouts. Miss your laugh, she'd text at 2 a.m., and I'd reply with photos of sunsets, heart emojis masking the hollow. Then the betrayal, not hers, but fate's cruel slight. A tip line call, smugglers targeting the straight again, this time with ties to corrupt brass. Nova dove in, undercover, her Seville handler praising the fire. I knew nothing until Mateo's frantic knock, accident. Straight patrol. She's stable, but... The hospital in Cadiz was a sterile purgatory, beeps and bleach assaulting senses. Nova lay pale, foredripped, a gash on her forehead stitched like a seam. Undercover went south, she rasped, hand finding mine. They knew. Someone leaked. My world tilted. Who? Doesn't matter. I'm okay. We are. But it did. Investigations swirled, whispers of Sophia's new firm, consulting for ports, innocent. Or grudge-fueled sabotage. Nova waved it off, but doubt seeded, blooming into arguments, her defensiveness, my pleas for caution. Climax shattered on All Saints' Eve, winds howling like banshees. Nova called from Seville, come. Need you. I drove through the night, arriving to her flat ablaze with candles, guitar in hand, first time she'd played since us. Wrote this, she said, strumming a melody raw as exposed wire, lyrics of anchors and lights, of choosing love over ghosts. Tears streamed as she sang, voice cracking on the bridge. When it ended, she knelt, pulling a ring from her pocket, simple silver, engraved with olive branches. Marry me, Olive. Not in spite of the chaos, but because of it. Build with me. Joy warred with terror, the job, the distance, the leaks. Yes, I breathed, pulling her up, our kiss sealing vows amid the storm. But betrayal's echo lingered. Days later, evidence surfaced. Sophia, tipped by a mutual contact, had anonymously fed the smugglers intel to discredit Nova's unit. No malice toward us, just professional payback. Nova confronted her over a tense call, voice steel, we're done. All of it. Sophia's reply, you chose the badge. Live with it. The scandal rocked the force, Mendocino transfers, headlines in El País. Nova resigned, trading captaincy for peace, returning to Algeciras patrol with a demotion she wore like a badge of honor. Worth it, she said, packing Seville boxes. For us. We wed in Ronda that summer, under the Puente Nuevo's arch, Mateo officiating in a suit too tight, Carmen scattering petals like confetti. Vows exchanged in English and Spanish, rings slipping on sun-warmed fingers. In upside-down lives, Nova murmured, you are my right side up. Years folded like well-worn maps, my gallery in Malaga thrived, canvases of our shared coasts drawing crowds. Nova mentored rookies, her scar a story of survival. Children came later, adopted twins from a 10-year orphanage, wide-eyed with wonder, filling our home with chaos and crayons. Betrayals fade, but their lessons root deep, humanizing the fractures. On anniversaries, we drive that midnight road, gas full, hands clasped. Hop in, she'd tease, and I'd laugh, knowing the upside down was just the path to home. In the end, love isn't the absence of storms, it's the choice to dance in the rain, two women weaving light from shadows, in Spain's eternal embrace.